Hello, this is Doug Brunke of the Global Chamber, and I'm today with Lee Benson, CEO of Able Engineering, Able Aerospace, and Execute to Win. Good morning, Lee.
Good morning, great to be here.
Could you first, before we get started, tell us a little bit about the companies that you're involved with?
Yes, Able Engineering repairs and overhauls aircraft components for aircraft operators around the world. We have about 1,000 customers in 60 countries. Able Aerospace manufactures parts for aircraft operators primarily around the world as well. And they leverage most of the customers that Able Engineering has, and they have others as well. And Execute to Win, or ETW, is a business management operating system for driving sustainable winning results through connecting employees to strategy and culture in any organization, in any industry in the world.
In our last conversation, we talked about your success, the year-on-year, over 20% per year growth, exporter of the year, clearly very successful businesses that you've put together. At some point along the way, you decided that exports was a key part of your growth strategy. Could you walk us through how you concluded that, and then how did you go about doing it?
Sure. The products and services that we offer, they help reduce aircraft operating costs safely for aircraft operators that we have as customers. And we started out doing a little bit of work for just a couple of operators here in the United States. In fact, the first customer was a large helicopter operator. And when we started looking at all the platforms that we have products and services for, and you look at it globally, there's a lot of aircraft in the United States, but there's many more aircraft around the world. So we wanted to get to all of it, and that's what made us decide to get into the global market.
Gotcha. Was that right in the beginning of your business venture, or was it a few years later? How did it evolve? So many businesses wait to decide that global is important. I get the sense perhaps really right from the get-go you were thinking international.
Well, what was interesting in the evolution, when you think about where we came from, I was the first employee in a company in 1982 that did one process. We did electroplating. It was called brush plating. We did it by hand. So there was a bench where we did this work. We only had one customer from 82 until 93, and that customer cut us off overnight. So I wasn't thinking about it back then. And when they cut us off overnight, my boss at the time said, close it or sell it. I'm done. You've got 30 days. Well, I couldn't find anybody to buy it in 30 days. So I went back and I said, let me assume the debt, a couple $100,000, and if we turn it around, I'll even pay you more money. And he agreed to this. And so we sat there with one process, no customers, no equipment, no money, trying to figure out what to do. So we weren't thinking about exporting then either. We were thinking about how do we get a little bit of business to keep this thing going. And we found one local company that was looking into repairing helicopter components. So we used our one process to help them save some of these components safely, much less expensively than buying new parts. And then we got the idea, wow, let's offer this to aircraft operators directly throughout the U.S. And then it was very quickly apparent after a couple of years that the majority of the market really is globally. And that's how we evolved into it. But from day one, we were trying to figure out what to do.
So just surviving.
Just surviving. In fact, we went from about 25 employees in 93 down to 3. The 2 left standing with me, I went to them and I said, I've got this great idea, but I can't afford to pay you the first year. I'd be willing to give you some provisional stock in the company if you stick around. And one of them said, sure, sign me up. I'm sure it'll work. And the other one said, it'll never work. We don't have equipment. We don't have customers. We don't have money, but sign me up anyway. I just want to see what's going to happen. And he's still here today, and he's done incredibly well.
I bet.
Yeah.
So the exporting really came after you were hitting a little bit of a stride, probably had a little bit of money in your pocket, and then, as you said, the realization that most of the market was outside the U.S. And so then how did you go about evaluating what those opportunities were and actually taking some steps across the border?
Yeah, some of the mistakes we made out of the gate were just assuming that we would go in, offer our product or service, and we would be the best value alternative. And so we just went to a couple different regions. We started with Mexico. We actually went to the Middle East. We went to Europe. Went a lot of different places. And we had great success in some areas and horrible success in others for a number of reasons. But in terms of deciding where to go, it's pretty easy, at least in our industry, to figure out where the aircraft are, who's flying them, what their mission profiles are. So we just sort of go through it, and every year we still iterate today to do that process better, to figure out where the best return on investment is for each region of the world that we pursue to bring in more business.
So, in terms of perhaps some surprises that you discovered as you were going through that process, it sounds like you made some assumptions that everybody in the world would want your product, and that might have been one of the surprises that you learned. But you probably also found out that there were certain markets and opportunities that you didn't necessarily know much about, but they ended up working out better than you expected. How did that evolve?
Yeah, we had to learn a lot. In fact, one of the lessons that we've learned over the years is that we need to fully assess the competition before we go in. What we found domestically is that the majority of the alternatives for the products and services that we offer are buying new parts. And so today we're actually saving our customers collectively hundreds of millions of dollars a year over their next best value alternative. We assumed that was the same all over the world. We went into some of the regions and we were right, and we won the business. In fact, in some of the regions, surprisingly, they're paying as much as 2 to 3 times what we pay domestically because they just can't get good service in different parts of the world. And then other regions we went in, we did all of our research. We absolutely, for sure, were the best value alternative when you looked at price and quality, how long things were going to last on the aircraft. And we're told directly in some of those interactions, yes, your pricing is very good. If you would deposit a significant amount of money into this bank account, we'll send you the business. So basically saying, pay us and we'll give you work. We have never fallen for that even one time. And my advice is don't do it, because when you start, it can create a lot of problems. And I've seen a lot of companies get in trouble doing it. And we'll find out after the fact that they actually awarded the work to a competitor for 2 to 3 times what we bid it for. So we just stay out of that. But our experience is that is the exception. That's not the rule. That's less than 5% of organizations around the world. So the upside is way better than sort of the darker side of what's happening globally.
So given that and that there are so many opportunities, how did you decide which markets to go after first, and how did you order them?
Yeah, we went where the largest population of aircraft were that were flying the most, that we had products and services on. Pretty straightforward.
Okay, gotcha. In retrospect, how would you have done things differently?
If we could do it over again, we would do it a lot smarter. I think everybody could say that, right? If I could go back 10 years or 5 years and know then what I know now, we could do it a lot differently. But the 5 questions that we talk about in our planning process, the first one where we discuss just sort of a macro sense what's going on with the industry, the competitors, just everything, what our strongest competitors are doing, what they did in the last year to change the game, what did we do in the last year, what are the danger signs or things that keep us up at night and what we worry about. And then looking at how we can be the best value alternative and take the work away. We didn't ask those questions early on. I would say the first 5 to 7 years we weren't asking those questions. And so we went out in a very inefficient, less effective way. Still effective, we still grew, we still made money, but it could have been so much better had we started out a lot smarter way going after the international business.
Those questions that you ask, is that part of an annual process, or is it on a routine? How does that the logistics of that process work?
Yeah, every year we go through a very formal planning process. Starts in October and it finishes in December. We take 3 to 4 weeks off between each session, and there are 3 full-day sessions. We ask the 5 questions on session 1. This year, for example, we spent about 5 hours with 20 senior leaders going through those 5 questions, and that was after everybody prepared significantly to answer them. Second half of day 1, we go through all the sales projections, and then we take time off to answer questions and test assumptions that come up, and then we do the same thing for operations, take more time off, and then do the same thing for finance, admin, and IT in December. We just had that session, and essentially the output would be 2 different plans. There's a high and a low. So looking at the sales that we're projected to bring in, if we get no more efficient than we were the year before, what do the financial results look like? And then if we get a lot more efficient for our efficiency plans that we have, what do those financial results look like? So we have 2 projections, and we always try to land towards the top end of it. And so that formal process that we go through every year, it improves every single year. Everybody gets better at playing the game. And then we have a monthly follow-up where every single operative group owner in the organization reports out on exactly where they're at, and we brainstorm and collaborate around how we can help them get better. better results.
It sounds like you've just explained this, but just in terms of making sure that you're on top of the best global opportunities that are out there, how do you stay in touch with that? Clearly, the process is a big help.
Yeah. Yeah, the process, if you follow it right, that we're describing here, it embraces continuous improvement across the board. And every single time one of our business development managers say, we're getting all the business on this particular platform in the world, we know where everybody's at, the more we iterate and keep working our process, every single month we're digging up potential competitors, customers that, well, actually both, more competitors and customers that can generate millions of dollars in additional business every single year. So just when we think we have a handle on the world, every month we find out that there's more that we didn't know that can really benefit us from actually knowing it.
Lee Benson, thank you for your really strong business approach, your view to international, and overall being such a strong exporter. And thank you for your time today.
All right, thank you, Doug.
Talk to you tomorrow.
Sounds good.